I am so excited for yet another epic Rebel Radio conversation with my new friend, Timi. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad that you're here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to have this chat with you, and then let's see what comes up. I've got a really good feeling about this chat today, so
Me too.
dive straight
Absolutely.
in.
So before we went live, you and I were vibing in the numbers, and I shared a little bit about your numerology, just a taste test. And I am really curious to know what was one of your biggest ahas or takeaways from that mini reading?
Yeah, I really love that how you talked about that. Obviously, with my date of birth, I have a lot of the energy that reflects in the mind area, and that is
Mhm.
definitely describes me as well. That I use my brain a lot, and even like my hobbies are related to using my mind and my brain, and I like to live inside my mind too much. So when I do tend to overthink things, I don't always know how to sort of outlet or output that energy. And then the couple of these that you gave me were so kind of mind opening as well. I didn't think about it. Just a bit of movement, like a physical movement, would help me shift that energy from the mind and all the way to the emotional body as well. So thank you so much again for that. I'm definitely going to maybe go for a little walk around a bit later on today as well, just to shake
Beautiful.
off these energies.
Yeah, I love that. And, that's one of the things that I love about numerology is that it gives you practical things you can do to leverage your chart, right? We were born when we were born.
Yeah.
But these little pieces, you're like, oh, if I just did that, my life would be easier.
Yeah, it's like why they not actually teaching this kind of stuff in school or when
Right.
you're in even preschool and when you are really open to these kind of aspects as well, because as I think as we are growing older, all of these sort of social conditioning and everything that surrounds us kind of cuts off these intuitive knowledge that we actually have stored in us. So I think it would be really good to educate people as young as you can around these these solutions.
Absolutely. Yes. And Joy, my business partner, and I are passionate about teaching people numerology just for that reason. So
Yeah.
I love that. So tell us a little bit about who you are.
Okay, so how much time we have?
Right?
No, okay, I'll give you the short story. So, in a nutshell, I would definitely describe myself as someone who is highly impact driven. So, even when I was a kid, I always felt that I'm here for a reason and I'm not here just to grow up, get a job, and then die, and that's it. Like I always felt this major drive, and I could never put my finger on it until I really started sort of diving deep into my own mind as well, and understand things on a deeper spiritual level. That what is it that I want to be doing? So I'm definitely the person who's the one who takes action. So I've done a lot of different things in my life. I lived in many different countries as well. I had many different jobs in my career. That comes down to my date of birth as well, obviously, as we
Yep.
chatted about this earlier. So definitely I'm the person who's hungry for change, to see society and humanity evolve into the right direction and into a better sort of direction, because as you can see as well, there's a major shift that's happening, and I love to be actively taking part in that shift and helping other people as well to move forward and not get stuck in where they are. So definitely one of those rebelling kind of characters that I'm not going to get in line. Definitely not.
Yes, my kind of human. I love it. I love it. So, who do you serve the most in the world? Like, what is it that you do for your work?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, I had this aha moment that I had a really strong business background previously, and I had a lot of knowledge around marketing and business development. And I kept on thinking, how can I use this for the greater good, for something that is actually create a positive impact out there? And I'm also madly crazy and passionate about my own spiritual development and
Mhm.
the whole sort of connectedness around and us and the consciousness in general. So I had this aha moment finally that I can just combine these two and I can serve the spiritual community with my business knowledge. So that's what I did a couple of years ago. I shifted into a spiritual business mentor role. So I'm only now working with people who are healers, coaches, change makers, light workers, star seeds, all the fun bunch out there who are actually care about our world and they want to make our world a better place. But they are really lacking the basic business knowledge. And
Mhm.
most of the time what I see that they really struggle and they actually become overwhelmed, they feel stressed out, and they actually lose their own alignment because of that lack of knowledge that comes with becoming an entrepreneur. So that's what I decided to do, that I'm on a mission to support this community that are actually needing this kind of knowledge the most, and not the big corporations that already have the resources for that, but people who are real change makers out there, but they don't know how to make a living out of obviously what they are actually meant to be doing, and doing it in a way that allows them to still just be themselves and be authentic. So
Oh,
that is
that's so
super
powerful.
fulfilling.
Yes, I love that. And, being someone who works with coaches and healers and spiritual teachers myself and helping them support business, I think what I notice the most is that there's still this old school marketing mentality that you need to do it my way. There's this cookie cutter way of doing business online, and it makes me sick.
It's really bad.
We're meant to do business our way and dance to the beat of our own drum. And I find that so many healers, coaches, they get caught up in the noise that's out there, thinking I should be doing that, I should learn that. And so they go and spend all their money on all these courses and then still feel stuck.
I think especially coaches are a lot more affected because of that, because even within the coaching community, there's this sort of I don't know, expectation in a way that as a coach, you're meant to be scaling up to, I don't know, 6 figures in 10 days by doing nothing or something. And these growth hackers out there, they're really exploiting, unfortunately, these kind of people, coaches and healers, because the way they are actually doing their own marketing, it is very attractive, because you are like, oh, I can do this is great. No, you cannot do it as a coach or a healer. That's not your thing, and you're not meant to be doing it. There are methods out there that work really well for more traditional industries or maybe product-based industries, but the audience that coaches and healers are targeting, and you can probably back me up on this as well, that they can see through the BS. They're not going to buy in the marketing tactics and the sleazy sales methods and all of that. They will feel you. They will intuitively know that you are just trying to rip them off and make a quick bucks on them. So that's the big reason why it doesn't work. So please, if you are watching, listening, do not fall for those growth hacks at all.
Yeah, everything's vibration. And if you are out there trying to manipulate or trying to work the system just for the almighty dollar, trust me, I have been there. I tried it. It does not fucking work.
Nope, not at all.
Oh my gosh.
It works for a short term, but that doesn't actually have any sort of long-term good benefits for you, because it will come back and bite you in the butt.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely. So I ask this question of every guest on the show. And as we were just speaking about vibration, it feels like the perfect lead in. And everyone has a different definition. So I want to know how you define unity consciousness.
I definitely feel that it's a bit of a cause and effect for me when we talk about like how are we all connected together, that whatever I'm thinking and whatever I'm feeling, that will have the sort of vibrational outlet, like it will transmute into energy around me, which will then transmute to the next person around me, who then goes away and then passes it on, and it's so on and so forth. So we are basically kind of like a big sponge together, and we absorb each other in a way. So I think if you start becoming a little bit more conscious about what am I doing and how my actions are going to actually have an impact on people around me, because I'm not only having an impact on people around me, but when they go away, it keeps on growing and growing and growing until I'm actually, just by me having a bad day and maybe being rude to someone in the shop and just not being patient enough or nice to them, that can trickle down all the way to somewhere down at the other side of the world, because they might call their mom, I don't know, live in Fiji, and they're going to be rude with them, and then it's a whole on effect. So in my view, that's what I would say, that even if someone who isn't spiritually aware or not questioning themselves, if you're looking at it from a sort of scientific perspective as well, that's your answer. Whatever you are doing, all of your actions will have an impact on someone else. So you might as well take a step back and figure out, how can I become a little bit better so I'm not screwing people over who are actually near me, right?
Yeah, I love that. It's the ripple effect of like you throw a rock in the lake and it just ripples out, right? And just the simple thing of smiling at the cashier at the grocery store can have such a massive impact on their kids and their family. And as that ripples out, then the kids go to school. They're not bullying people. It just becomes this massive ripple of impact. I love that.
Exactly. Yeah, I got shivers as well as
Me
we were
too.
speaking about this. I'm loving these energies.
So good. So what kind of rituals or habits do you have in place for yourself to keep you connected to unity consciousness?
So as we chatted before we went live, you described me really well that I am very much in my mind a lot. So I actually use that to my advantage to help me ground myself as well. So I, over the years of a lot of trial and errors, I figured out finally how to actually use it to my advantage. So I love journaling. That's one of my easiest ways, or the quickest ways for me personally to do that and really figure out, okay, what's happening and what is it that I actually want to create, and how am I making an impact around me. So journaling is a big thing. I've got behind me, maybe you can see, but around 15 notebooks from the last few years, and they all have these different kind of themes. So I have one that is more about like my creative sort of outcome, or writing that comes through me, maybe even not even sometimes me coming or talking, but it's all that connectedness that actually is channeling through. But then I have the personal sort of like a tracker to look at my milestones, and then I can reflect back to see how did I evolve over the years, maybe how else I need to improve myself to make sure that I'm having a positive impact on others around me. And I have like an annual exercise that I do every year, which is sort of the end of the year, beginning of the year. So I would read back my sort of yearly goals and desires that I wanted to achieve that year, and really reflect and look at just how much I went through, how I transformed, and what sort of impact I actually made on people around me. And that helps me to then decide, okay, how do I want to then make a bigger impact on the community that will help them move forward in the right direction. So journaling, I think, is such an easy tool that everyone has access to, and you don't have to study it, or you don't have to get confused in it. And especially if someone who's, if someone's watching and they're a bit like me, that they love to think and they love to play with words, then journaling, I think, is a really great way. At least it works for me. And it's a form of meditation as well for me. That's when I can really get lost in the moment, when I just grab a pen and I write old school, pen and paper. Like, that's the best way of doing it. Just
Yeah,
has
there's
a different
a
energy.
kinetic connection to the actual physical writing, right?
Yeah.
I love that you distinguish that it works for you, because each and every one of us, different charts, different numerology, some people love to journal, some people don't. And it's interesting because I am on the mental plane as well, but journaling is not my go-to. I would prefer to meditate or go for a walk or something like that to move my body. But we each have our different rituals. For somebody who maybe has not journaled before, or who's wanting to journal and kind of struggling with where to go, I'm curious, where do you come up with the questions that you ask yourself in your journaling process?
I love this question. It's a really good one, because it just kind of, I just thought it was obvious, probably because I have been journaling for so long. So it's good that you're pointing it out, that obviously we are not on the same path or the same part of our journey. So yeah, definitely I would go into a bit of a meditative mindset first of all, just to become a little bit more present in the moment, and just really try to calm down that noise that is going through our minds all day long. That really helps me to just allow those little inner voices to bubble up, and then really start paying attention to our real voice that is supposed to be the real us, and not just chitter chatter that goes through our brains. So anything that allows you to just calm yourself down a little bit, either if it is a meditation, or you drink a tea, or you do some yoga, whatever that is, again, whatever works for you. For me, I like to sort of consciously shut down that noise in my mind. The way I do it, and I learned it when I was a sort of a teenager, when I was having all these thoughts in my mind. I like to visualize things. So I actually would imagine, before I would go to sleep, and if I wanted to really quiet down the noise, I would imagine myself being inside my brain, and inside my brain looked like this major dashboard, kind of like a spaceship with all these, buttons and everything. And on the side of all these flashing buttons, there would be like one sort of like a lever that you had to just go shut down. And I still do it sometimes. It's such an easy way to help yourself and guide yourself to get into that state of mindset when you are a little bit calmer, and then the noise goes a bit quieter, and eventually it fades away. It helped me. And now, like, because I've been using it for so long, I don't have to envision the whole scenario that little me is inside my brain and going into the spaceship. But now I can just see that sort of lever that I just pulled down.
So I love that. I can just picture that, like, going into your own brain. Turn that lever off. That's so cute. I love that.
It was an easy way. And then again, this came to me because I allowed it to came to me. So I didn't read about this, or no one told me this thing, but I was a teenager, I was young, and I just followed that intuitive voice that was coming through me. And I think that's the key there, that you need to pay attention to your body first of all, like what does your body want, and really fine tune yourself with your real self, because you are in a body for a reason. So the body is going to signal you certain things, and it will guide you towards the directions, like what you need to be paying attention to. For me, it was my brain. It was directing me to my brain.
Right. I love that. So, I mean, we kind of touched on this a little bit at the beginning of the show, in that we are going through a paradigm shift in this very moment, right? And we're experiencing that in the chaos in the world, but also seeing the awakening of so many humans. And I'm curious how you see that, how we let go of some of our old patterns in business as entrepreneurs, and how we step into the new paradigm with this unity consciousness mind frame and yet still be 3D business owners.
Yeah. It's definitely not an easy step forward, and that's perfectly normal. That's how it's supposed to be, because as you said, it's a major shift, yet you are leaving something behind, the old you, the old business, the old ways behind. So if someone is going through something similar and they are struggling to do it, that's okay. So first of all, don't get frustrated. It's okay if you're not able to do it for the first trial or even the second attempt. It's okay, as long as you make some kind of progress. But definitely the easiest way, or maybe one of the simplest ways, is really creating the sort of, not the pros and cons, but kind of in a way that realizing, like, this is what we have been doing up until this point. Is it working now? Yes or no? No. We are gonna have to throw it out, and you need to be mixing a little bit of your intuition with the sort of rational mind as well, to help you realize that yes, it is a business that you are running, but the way that you can do this successfully with adapting to the new shift is allowing your real self to come into play when you are in your business. Because if you do that, if you are starting to focusing on the right things, meaning your customers and the service that you are providing and the impact that you are having on them with your service or your product, you will realize that identifying what needs to be let go of will be a lot easier, because you will get the feedback from people around you that I really love what you're doing, because you are not trying to sell me anything for no reason, but you understood what I wanted. This is a way of realizing that people are paying attention to one another more often now. That, when I was a chief executive officer, I hated that person I become in the end, because I had to portray to be someone that I really wasn't. And I loved the job and I loved everything else around it, but it hit me later down the line that I was not myself. I was not authentic. I had to play this tough woman who was negotiating these big deals, and I was like, that's not me. Like, this is me, the fun person who's all in, like, talking about spirituality and vibration. Like, that's what I want to be doing in my business.
Yeah.
So if someone is going through that, they really need to understand that the sort of consumer market out there is now craving the realness, is craving authenticity. People had enough of the illusion. People had enough of the everything is perfect, you can do everything you want. No, like, show them the reality, show them your vulnerability, show them your failures, show them the mistakes you made as a business owner. Or if you made a mistake with the customer, shit happens, it's nothing wrong with it. If you made a mistake with a customer and they're unhappy, just be genuine and be empathetic, and try to put yourself into their shoes, and then you will come up with a better solution. So from a business perspective, this is probably the simplest ways to start transitioning. Focus on the customer first, and everything else will come forward in the right way, basically, because then the intention is now on, how do I make a positive difference by running a business? Or is my business even serving a community? Is my business making any kind of positive contribution to my local community, or to the environment, or to my industry even? So don't even have to think big. You can just look at, maybe, what is your industry? Am I making a difference in my industry? Am I making things better for my peers and coworkers or my team? That's a big one.
Yeah.
People
Right?
tend to forget about their teams.
Yeah. I love that so much. And, so for so long, we've been taught to keep our intuitive self separate from our business, that we just have to focus on the strategy and then you get to be woo-woo over there. And that's just painful. I've tried it. It doesn't work. And the more that we recognize that we can bring all of us to the table, I think that's the key in being successful in this new shift.
Absolutely. I've been there as well, just as you did that. When you are trying to just be completely rational and completely logical in your business, a part of you dies inside. So how can you actually end up loving your own business if you're not being yourself? Like, it's going to have an effect on everything else that you do, how you deal with your customers, how you deal with people around you, because you're not yourself. You're frustrated. You are dead inside a little bit. Of course, you're not going to be a great person to be working with. Why should I pay you when I see that, oh, Cindy's a bit of in a mood today, but if I see that, oh my God, here's this person who's completely just genuine themselves, and they stand up to what they really believe in, and I get a sense of their character as well. That's the way of doing it, and making connections. It's a lot easier to sell as well when you establish a genuine connection with someone, and that's something that I also like to help my clients to change their mindset around it, that even if you are a healer or a coach and you are selling your services, you don't have to sell in a way that it's like the ABC of selling, as many of us learned it back in the day, always be closing. You will always be closing if you are just being yourself. If that's a simple trick. Follow the strategy, know what you are doing, know why you are doing what you're doing. I think that's a lot more important. And just remind yourself, if this customer purchases or buys something from me, why do I want that? How am I going to create something great out of that situation? So, for example, in my case, if someone would purchase one of my programs, then I know that I'm going to make that person's life amazing, because they will know how to run their business, which then mean they will have a lot more customers, so a lot more healed people, a lot more coach people. So that's what helps me as well. So whatever you are doing, if you're listening, ask yourself that question, that when you are selling, that what is the end result if that person would purchase my service or my product? What is that positive impact I'm going to have, not just on their lives, but on their customers and their families and their communities?
Yeah, I love that. That's one of the things that I like to teach is what's in it for me first, what's in it for them, and then what's in it for the world.
Exactly. That's absolutely it. If you, I love that concept, because you go from zoom in and then keep zooming out. And it's a really good way of doing it, especially if someone runs their own business, because it starts with you, especially if you are a solo entrepreneur as well. And probably you see that happening a lot as well with your clients, that there's also a bit of a mindset shift happening when someone suddenly becomes a spiritual entrepreneur, that they are still stuck in that employee mindset for a little while. Have you seen that happening as well?
Oh yeah.
So that takes a bit of a thing. And what you are teaching, actually, I love that you're also focusing on the financial side of things, because that's a big scary monster out there for spiritual people for some reason. And I'm so happy that you're actively out there and killing that monster.
Killing the money monster. I love it. Yeah. So that leads me straight into the next question that I ask every guest. What does wealth mean to you?
Wealth, that means freedom in a very simple way, because wealth has, I love the word wealth, first of all. It's such a beautiful, beautiful word, because it really describes that feeling when everything is fine. Okay. Like everything is doing well. You are healthy. That's also wealth for me. Your relationships around you are meaningful. That's also wealth for me. You have a living situation that you feel at home. That's also a wealthy situation. Plus, you don't have any financial restrictions. So when people try to look at wealth from a perspective that it's only just monetary and just finances, that's a big part of it, yes. But it all adds up to all these other things. And the biggest thing that helped me as well change my own mindset a few years ago is that when I realized that if you don't have financial security and financial stability, none of the other bits around wealth is going to ever work out, right? Because how can you, let's say, I don't know, you're in a loving relationship and you just really feel like, I want to go to a concert, or I want to jump on a plane and go and visit a new country. If your bank account is empty,
can't go.
I'm sure you're still going to find another way to do it, but wouldn't it be a lot more of a of an intense experience if you could share that with your loved ones or take your family somewhere that because they deserve it. So for me, wealth is definitely that kind of state when everything around you is balanced and you don't have any sort of restrictions financially, especially as well.
Yeah, I love that so much. And, I've spoken, I think there's this essence in the community of spirituality where, I only need enough to get by. It's
Mm,
selfish for me to make a lot of money. And the way I see it is that we need to make more money
yes.
because we're the ones that are leading the charge in this paradigm shift. And if we don't have the money to be able to support that shift, it's going to be really hard for us. So I think
Hmm.
we all have the responsibility to up level our money mojo just a little bit, even just
You're
to get to
absolutely
the
right.
place where we're moving our money out into the world in positive ways. We're impacting the world with our money. I think that's so important.
Exactly. And I think also when people understand that money has no characters or
Yeah.
personal traits, because I hear it's like money is evil, money is bad. Like, no, it's
No,
what
money doesn't
you do
care.
with it. Like, if you make it evil, yes, then it becomes evil, but then it's up to you. It's just energy like everything else around you. And then how you, what sort of vibrations you assign to it, then that's what happens. And then it becomes a thing. But also that one thing that I would just like to put out there for the spiritual community specifically, that if you didn't choose maybe this timeline specifically, but I do believe that probably all of us would agree with this, or they had some insights on that you're here for a reason now on this planet in this body. So you chose this timeline, you chose to be here right now, and you chose a timeline where it's a material world, right?
Mhm.
So if you really didn't need money or finances, why would you have actually chosen this
Right.
moment here? So
Yeah.
that's maybe a good way for helping people understand as well, to accept even the fact that we are in a material world, and if you don't have a roof over your head and you don't have financial stability, you're never going to be able to really utilize your higher purpose, because you're constantly worried about, what do I eat tomorrow, or I can't do this, I can't do that, and you're not allowing that freedom to flow through you
Yes.
in a way that really can manifest around you properly. So you chose this timeline, people. I'm sorry to
Right?
break this to you.
You chose this timeline, play in it.
Yes.
Play full out. I love it. I love it. So, oh my gosh, I feel like I could just talk to you forever.
Likewise.
Total goosebumps on this show. I love it. Thank you for coming to be on the show. But as always, we end it with one last question. What do you dream up for the world?
I wish that the world would wake up quicker. That's what I would dream for the world. But I do feel that we're going into the right direction finally, and it's up to people like us, if we are brave enough to really step our games up and drive this change forward. That's what I dream of, that all of us are coming together finally, instead of fighting each other, but let's come together because we've got a big task to do right now. So, like, start all of those businesses, go out there and put that positive money out there into those communities, because the world needs people like us, because it's really time. It's overdue. So it's now or never.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I loved every second of it. And I could stay here for another 5 hours probably and not even
Right?
realize it.
I love it. All right. Thank you.